going on YouTube? And welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Montreal Canadiens goal scorer, probably their best goal scorer in the last decade, and that is Cole Caufield. There's a lot of questions about maybe an offer sheet potentially coming for the RFA this summer, but we're going to take a look at some of the options available for him, whether that's a long-term contract, short-term contract, the benefits, the negatives, and of course the possibility of an offer sheet. We'll discuss all of that today. So the Montreal Canadiens are in an interesting predicament with Cole Caufield. Now, the problem with Caufield's situation is it's kind of on a two-front approach. So the first is, this is a guy that's a natural goal scorer. You look at his numbers through his NHL career so far, this guy can score, but it's in a very limited sample size, and especially last season because of his injury. And the Habs can use that to their advantage and kind of leverage Cole Caufield's injury and kind of make that into a situation that actually benefits them. Now, the 22-year-old scorer, he signed his entry-level contract with the Canadiens back in 2020. He signed it in 2021, but he signed a 3-year deal. A couple of little signing bonuses here and there. But now he is coming into his fourth season in the NHL this coming year. But he's never played a full 82-game schedule. He played 10 games in his first season, right? We all remember that run he went on at the University of Wisconsin. Then he ends up going to Montreal in 2021. He plays 10 games in the NHL. Last season, he played 67 games. He played pretty well, though. He got 43 points, 23 goals. And then this season, he only played 46 games. So now, 2 years in a row now, where he's kind of expected to play more, he hasn't. Combined, basically, he's played a little over 100 games in his first 3 seasons, which isn't that great when you think about it. But his numbers are impressive. 53 goals in 123 games. This is a guy that's starting to get that upward trajectory. And the problem is, I think the Leafs, I think the Habs need to look at Caufield as a guy that we either need to invest in long-term and accept the consequences, or sign him short-term, and there's a lot of risk there. So you might be asking yourself, well, what are you talking about? So let's say, right, I'm thinking about examples around the league, and Johnny Hockey made a really good video the other day talking about this, where he kind of talked about how if you sign a guy like a Chuck or Matthews to a 3 or 5 year deal, there's a lot of risk in that, because especially for a guy like Matthews right now, and we already made that video, check that out. There's a lot of risk in that because you're walking them straight into unrestricted free agency. So you're not buying any years of UFA status, which obviously is leverage for the player, but it's also one of those things that's a little bit of a risk for the player, because now there's that uncertainty. So let's say Caufield continues to get injured and he signs that 3 or 5 year deal. If he continues to get injured here and doesn't play a full 82-game schedule for the next 3 or 5 years, people are going to start to wonder, is this guy a liability? And he's not healthy, right? So that's kind of what you're looking at on that side. The other side is, if you sign him to the 8-year deal, that cap hit in really those UFA years that you're paying for. Because right now, Caufield's 22. So let's say you sign him to an 8-year deal till he's 30 years old. Well, that deal is going to be 8 years. So now the first, let's just say, 26 you become a UFA? The first 4 years of that contract, let's say it's $10 million, right? Let's go to the max. $10 million AAV for 8 years. 8-year, $80 million contract, okay? The first 4 years of that deal, that price might look a little bit high. But in the next 2 years, the salary cap is expected to go up at least $4 or $5 million in one season. So if that's the case, that's actually going to look like a lot better contract for the Canadiens if that much more money is put into the market. And now you've still got Caufield at $10 million. So with the inflation of the salary cap, that 8-year deal allows Caufield's contract to stay the same. By the time we get to 4 years from now, let's say years 5, 6, 7, and 8, that might be one of the best contracts in the entire National Hockey League. a guy that could be making $10 million that actually might be really good for a pure goal scorer. But there is that inherent risk, like I talked about earlier, is if you sign him to that 8-year deal, and we're now 3 or 4 years into the deal, he continues to play 60, 70 games, maybe, usually 40 games in a season, continuing to have surgeries and out of the lineup, well, now there's a lot more of a liability there, and that $10 million price tag looks a lot more like, oof, that was not good. It could go one way or the other. So this is kind of a risky move here. I think it's going to be a very calculated move by the staff there in Montreal. I think they know what they're doing in Montreal. They've done a really good job so far. So I expect nothing less here. But this is going to be a really interesting conversation because this is a guy that's, this guy's pretty much he has the same build as me. He's actually shorter than me. He's 5'7" and 174 pounds. So he is a very small hockey player, and he's already having those concerns with injuries at 22 years old. There is that genuine question of, is this guy going to be a liability, and is he worth giving basically a decade of $10 million per season? So then comes the offer sheet talk. Now, I've heard some stuff specifically about teams like the Philadelphia Flyers that have definitely grown a lot of interest toward Cole Caufield. I just don't see it happening. That's exactly what the Flyers need. Just the idea. Imagine of Owen Tippett and Cole Caufield on the same line. That would be pretty sick. But I just don't think that's going to happen, in all honesty. But it's something to look at. You've got a couple of young guys coming up. You have Morgan Frost, who played well last year. Cutter Gauthier, who they drafted, I think 7th overall last year. So, the Flyers have some options there. And you had another U.S. an NTDP guy in Cole Caufield. That would be pretty nice for this team. But again, I think it would take a lot for a team to get an offer sheet done for Caufield. You're talking about, honestly, you're probably looking at giving him 11. I don't know if Montreal would be willing to give him 11. But again, would the Flyers be willing to give him 11? That seems like a lot. Also, again, do you give him maybe a shorter deal? Do you give him a 3-year deal if you're the Flyers? You know he wants to be with the Flyers. You give him $11 million now. And then in 3 years' time, all right, he's been able to stay healthy. He's been good. All right, how about we give you 12, right? We gave you a good contract last time. We'll bump it up a little bit with the new salary cap structure. We'll give you $12 million per year and give him that big ticket contract, right? So from 25 to 33, he has in his prime years, he has that big contract, whether that's with the Flyers or whatever team he decides to do in 3 years from now. And I think we're going to see a lot of teams a lot of players starting to take that model, right? We've seen Dubois do that, and that's kind of part of the conversation too, because if the Habs want to bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois next summer, they're going to need that cap space. So they're going to have to find ways to kind of circumvent the salary to do that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Caufield. More likely than not, I think he's going to be a member of the Montreal Canadiens, but I have heard those rumors about the Flyers, and it does make you wonder, in an alternate universe, could they find a way to make that one work? There's definitely players on Philadelphia that could help the Flyers. Guys like Travis Konechny, Sean Couturier, Ivan Provorov. I could see there being some kind of match there. It's obviously not a perfect fit. As crazy as it sounds, I'd look at Carter Hart. Could Carter Hart, the next Carey Price-esque player, end up going to Montreal? That would be kind of interesting too. Again, these are all just rumors, but there's a lot that could be happening here behind the scenes. I think Montreal is going to be ready for a pretty big summer. They were quiet at the trade deadline, and usually when teams are as quiet as the Habs were at the deadline, I think they're going to make some moves at the draft. They've got 2 first-round picks this year. They've got 3 fourth-round picks, 2 fifth-round picks this year and next. They have 2 first-round picks in 2025. They have Calgary's pick. In 2025, they have their own. So they've got 5 first-round picks in the next 3 years. So they've got a lot of draft capital. And you also consider some of the prospects they have, right? I'm not saying they're going to trade these guys, but you look how many young guys are on this team. There's a lot to be said here. And you've also got the uncertainty about potentially what could happen with a guy down the road in Alex DeBrincat. I've heard rumors that Montreal could be looking down that route. I've heard a lot of different names for a guy like Alex DeBrincat. You wonder if Montreal could be in that conversation. But you look at some of the young guys, right? Caufield's 22. Arbor Jackguy, 22. Uroš Lakovsky, 19, right? He was drafted first overall in 2021. On the blue line, Justin Barron, 21. Caden Gooley, 21. Jordan Harris, 22. He looks like a really good player. Even in the system, Philip Mazar, Sean Farrell, Emil Henneman, Owen Beck, Xavier Simone, Riley Kidney, Jan Mizek, Raphael Harvey Pinard. Blue line, Logan Mailloux. I know people love him. Matthias Norlander, William Trudeau. There's a couple of really interesting prospects here that the Montreal Canadiens, if they want to, they can move around to improve this team. And I think if they are willing to sign a guy like Cole Caufield, they've got the cap space. They've got $9.3 million in cap space. I think they're going to try and find a way to make this work. The big ticket this year is Cole Caufield. Other than that, the other guys, they could let most of them, if not all of them, go. And this isn't a knock on guys like Monahan or Byron or even a guy like Guryanov or Pezzetta, but the reality is Cole Caufield's the most important on the priority chart compared to those other guys. But I want to know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think of the Montreal Canadiens potentially taking an offer sheet on or keeping, or if they do decide to keep Caufield, do you want a long-term deal? There's more risk there, but there's also more reward. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation signing him long-term. Could they sign him for that short-term deal? I want to know your guys' thoughts. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.